What's going on, YouTube, and welcome to Goal Line Hockey. It's Kevin Forte, and today we are taking a look at kind of an interesting parallel between the 2015 draft and the 2023 NHL draft. We're going to create the underdog story for the next Jack Eichel. Who are we talking about? We're going to discuss that today. But before we get into that, guys, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. I really do appreciate that. And use our discount code down below at Built Bar. We have a 10% discount code. Use GLH at checkout using the link down below. It's going to help support the channel. And if you like Built Bars anyway, it shouldn't be that big of a deal, and it helps us out. So I do appreciate that. But with that out of the way, let's take a look at the 2015 NHL draft and how it is going to probably be very comparable to this year's 2023 NHL draft. So for context for some of you guys out there, you might not understand, Kevin, what are you talking about, right? What is the correlation between 2015 and 2023 in particular? And there's actually a lot. And the first one being that in the 2015 draft, down in Florida, in Fort Lauderdale, we had Connor McDavid, the next generational talent. And he was the first overall pick. And the team that had the best odds, we have plenty of stories about that 2015 Buffalo Sabres team. They tanked. They did everything possible. Anybody that picked up a hat trick or played well, goalies were getting traded because they were playing too well. They did everything in their power to get the first overall pick to draft McDavid. And we know that's obviously not how things worked out. They ended up drafting second overall. They ended up drafting the consolation prize, Jack Eichel. But what's interesting is there's a lot of similarities between that draft and this year's draft, right? Because in 2015, it was Connor McDavid who was that next-gen talent. And then, well, you know, Jack Eichel is good. And in any other given NHL draft, he would be drafted first overall. But there's Connor McDavid first, right? There's no conversation, but this kid's pretty good too, right? And it kind of, that player definitely thinks to himself, man, like, I know I'm a good player. I should be a first overall pick. I'm just in the wrong draft. And I think that's kind of what's happened right now in this year's draft because, of course, everybody's got the buzz around Connor Bedard. This is the Connor Bedard draft. We've been talking about this kid who's played in the WHL with the Regina Pats now for, 2 or 3 years. He's selling out the Scotiabank Saddle Dome where the Flames play. The Flames for a regular season game don't even sell out that building. Now you just have some 17-year-old kid walk in there and sell out a building in Calgary. That's the kind of buzz this kid has this year. And everybody kind of forgets about the kid from the University of Michigan. You have two parallels in the Canadian boy, the next generational talent between McDavid and Bedard, and the U.S. kid going second overall. In 2015, it was Boston University, BU? The BU Terriers, Jack Eichel. And this year, it's the University of Michigan's Adam Fantilli. So what's interesting between these two players, as well as probably being selected second overall, is the team that had the best odds of drafting first overall ended up getting this player. So for the Ducks, they had the best odds of drafting Connor Bedard. They end up drafting second. Hence, same thing back in 2015. The Buffalo Sabres had the best odds at drafting first overall, and they end up drafting second overall. Jack Eichel's numbers at the University of Boston University, he picked up some really good numbers, and he ended up winning the Hobey Baker Award in the 2014-2015 season. He only played one season at BU as a freshman, and that's another correlation. In his freshman season, winning the Hobey Baker, same for Adam Fantilli. He picked up 71 points in 40 games, 26 goals. So, to say the least, Jack Eichel was a pretty good hockey player at BU. And there's definitely reason to believe this is a guy that was going to be drafted at the very least top 5 overall, if not maybe even first or second. And that's where he ended up going. Second overall to the Buffalo Sabres. And that's kind of where the correlation ends, right? Because now Eichel's 26 years old. He's been since traded from Buffalo. And we all know the story around that. But this is a kid that played in the Hockey East, was a Hobey Baker winner in his freshman season, and was kind of the second man in line behind the next generational talent, but was also a very talented player that won the Hobey Baker, right? That's no award to kind of scoff at. That's a big deal, especially as a freshman player. And we've seen very similar numbers from Adam Fantilli this season. So the 18-year-old from Nobleton, Ontario, in 36 games, had 65 points and 30 goals. Adam Fantilli is extraordinarily talented and is going to be a #1 center wherever he goes. And I think for the Anaheim Ducks, yeah, they aren't getting Connor Bedard, but the idea of Mason McTavish, Trevor Zegras, Isaac Lundestrom, and now Adam Fantilli down the middle, that is 4 competent top 3 centers right there. So one of those guys is going to jump to the wing. And I think when you look at Adam Fantilli, this is a situation that actually might be better for him because he's going to be going to a place in Anaheim where there's already a little bit of structure there. There's not going to be a ton of pressure on him. It's not all about Adam Fantilli. And I think that's going to be really good for his development because it's going to allow him, maybe in Anaheim as well, to kind of just ease his way into the NHL and not really rush into things. And depending on who the Ducks have as their head coach next season, I think it's going to also affect how they utilize him. But I think I'm going to be very confident in the sense that considering he won the Hobey Baker, already had 30 goals in 36 games, he's not going back to Ann Arbor, Michigan in the fall. He is going to be in Orange County, California, skating with the Anaheim Ducks opening night. I have really high hopes for Adam Fantilli. I think it's pretty much a lock. He goes second overall. I'd be very surprised if the Ducks went in a different direction. This is a really good pickup for Pat Verbeek and his organization there in Anaheim. And I think that, you consider all the similarities between, Eichel and McDavid and now Bedard and Fantilli, freshman Hobey Baker winners from the Hockey East or the Big Ten for, University of Michigan. I know somebody's going to call me out for that. But you get what I'm saying is these are 2 players that are maybe not getting the attention they would deserve in any given draft, right? Like, nothing against some of the guys that have been drafted, but there would be a lot more debate between Jack Hughes or Adam Fantilli in their draft years. Owen Power and Adam Fantilli. Fantilli probably would have been first overall in that draft. And who knows, Buffalo could have had Adam Fantilli and Jack Eichel. And talk about correlation, that would have been very, very interesting. But I think it is unignorable the amount of comparisons between these 2 guys, and we've seen the success Jack Eichel's had now in Vegas, and I think there is that still sense that, when he went up to Edmonton and played really well and had that big goal, I think he had a hat trick, did he not? Anyway, he definitely had that one goal, and the way he stared down the Oilers fans, maybe it's not so much resentment, but you have to be thinking in his head, he's like, yeah, you guys didn't want me, you didn't draft me. I think that does play in the NHL. These guys want to be the underdog story, and I think he took that to the fullest. And I think we could see something similar to that with Adam Fantilli here with the Anaheim Ducks, is kind of that chip on his shoulder, like, man, you guys didn't think I was good enough for that first overall pick. And even though I know Bedard's a good player, I should have been the first overall pick. I know what I'm capable of, and I think that's going to end up being a motivator for Fantilli once he gets to the league. There's going to be a lot of comparisons between Fantilli and Bedard. A lot of the conversation, though, is going to be between McDavid and Bedard. But I think the more realistic thing we should look at in terms of comparables is Adam Fantilli and Jack Eichel. And I, as a Ducks fan, I was disappointed they didn't get Connor Bedard. Obviously, right? When the card flipped and, what's his name? I forget his name. The guy that does the card flipping. I was disappointed that the big Blackhawks logo came up and not the Ducks logo. But for the Ducks, this is not a loss in any regard. And I think when you look at what Adam Fantilli can do, he can score goals. He's a great passer. He's a really good center. This is going to be a guy that they are going to be excited to have in the lineup. And he's already 6'2", 195 pounds. He's basically NHL size already. Maybe get a little bit more weight. But this is a big kid, and he's going to be ready for the Ducks in the fall. And as a Ducks fan, I'm very excited. So, guys, let me know what you think down below. What do you guys think of the comparisons between Jack Eichel and Adam Fantilli? I think it's a very interesting conversation and something we're probably going to discuss more once we get to the NHL draft. But I think it's something I wanted to bring up here ahead of the draft and something that I think was worth mentioning and getting its own video. So, let me know what you guys think down below. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you again next time.